All right, let's move on from security-related matters to health. Now, this has got to do with Parkinson's disease. We've got Omotola Thomas joining us. He's the founder of Parkinson's Africa joining us. She joins us via Skype this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I know many wondering, what are you guys talking about Parkinson's today? So it's equally important. So could you go ahead and tell us about this disease? Are we paying enough attention to it?
Thank you very much for having me, Chamberlain. Parkinson's disease, very simply put, is a brain disease that gets worse over time. It happens when the dopamine-producing neurons in the brain die off. And when enough of these cells die off, a person's ability to perform many different functions, very important functions, including memory, cognition, movement, and balance, become impaired. There are four main symptoms, which are tremors, rigidity, bradykinesia, which is slowness of movement, and postural instability. To answer your question, no, we're not paying nearly enough attention to Parkinson's disease, particularly in Africa. And I'm hoping that with the establishment of Parkinson's Africa, that is something that will get addressed. There is far too much stigma and lack of awareness and misconception about the disease, particularly in Africa.
Perhaps that misconception speaks to a number of things that you would want to quote, you may want to clear. On the one hand, there's some information out there says it's something that happens to older people. The average, one study says the average age of people who are vulnerable to that in Africa is in the region of 69 years old. And we also hear now that it's something that is happening to younger people more frequently. And then you also talked about stigma on the part of those who have been diagnosed with PD. So please clear some of this stigma, these misconceptions, please.
So first of all, the majority of people who get Parkinson's are 60 and above worldwide. But that does not mean that people my age don't get it. I got diagnosed in 2016 at the age of 35. And I think particularly because of my age, my race, and my gender, it took 5 years for the doctors to actually figure out what was wrong with me. I did multiple brain scans, tests, blood work. I was living in the US at the time, so I had access to proper healthcare. And it took a really, really long time. I think the numbers, at least in the US, are between 2 and 10% of the population with Parkinson's are young onset. And young onset are those who develop it under the age of 60. Now, there's also something called juvenile onset, which is if you get it under the age of 20. I think stigma is an incredibly big issue, and it's caused by these misconceptions. In many parts of Africa, a lot of people think that it's because of witchcraft or demon possession or some type of curse, and because of that, they hide and they don't come out, and they don't seek treatment. And these are the things that we're trying to address.
Could these misconceptions also be as a result of misdiagnosis? Because to some extent, symptoms of Parkinson's are similar to that of stroke. Could that also be a factor?
I don't think the misconceptions are due to misdiagnosis. There are definitely issues of misdiagnosis, and that has many different factors. Number one, in terms of the number of neurologists that are available across the continent to be able to actually diagnose PD is low. As of 2016, I don't have the updated numbers. I know that there were 80 neurologists in Nigeria for a population of about 180 million, and about 20 in Kenya for a population of about 43 million people. So there are just not enough healthcare professionals to be able to diagnose Parkinson's. But Parkinson's does mirror the symptoms of many other illnesses and diseases their symptoms do mirror Parkinson's. And I remember, getting tested for so many different things just to rule it out.
How do we address this stigma for the disease?
Thank you for that wonderful question. I think, first of all, the stigma is caused by not only just misconceptions. When we grew up with a mindset of what is accepted, what is considered normal, and anything that deviates from that norm, from that accepted normalcy, like my hands shaking like this, is considered abnormal and is considered abnormal, and anything abnormal is shameful. I think the way to address the stigma is by awareness, is by people like myself and other people who are affected by this illness coming online, on whatever platforms they have, sharing their stories. I think awareness and education is the antidote to the issue of stigma. And I think everybody has a part to play. You guys, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to be here today for this platform. People with Parkinson's like myself need to be able to rise up and come out and speak about it because, we don't know what the numbers are specifically in Africa, but until we have enough people making noise, we won't get the attention that Parkinson's needs and deserves.
Tell us about your experience, because you're going about this, you're seeking support, trying to change something. What have you experienced while you've been at it?
Are you talking about my experience with the illness or my experience as an advocate?
As an advocate, and perhaps as with the illness, if you will.
So, in all honesty, Parkinson's is a very difficult and challenging illness to deal with. It has impacted many different aspects of my life. It impacts my ability as a wife and a mom. But as with any other challenge in life, we must be able to adapt and thrive. And that's one thing that I've tried to do throughout my journey. Shortly after I got diagnosed, I made a decision that I was not going to be quiet about the illness because I felt that silence equals subjugation. And so I started, I was living in the UK when I got diagnosed in the UK, which is where I live now. I started forming different networks, volunteering for charity. And one of the first things that I noticed was that there was a huge lack of representation. In fact, I wouldn't even say lack of representation. I didn't know any Africans that were diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I felt a huge void. I felt lonely because there are many different unique challenges that I faced as an African with this illness that I wasn't able to really explain to my Caucasian counterpart. And so I decided to create a platform, the same platform that I was looking for when I got diagnosed, where people of where Africans who are connected to or affected by Parkinson's could come on, share their experiences, exchange stories, find resources. And that is basically what Parkinson's Africa is about. Our vision is we envision a continent where everyone who is connected to or affected by Parkinson's on the continent of Africa has access to the information, education, resources, and support that they need. And we've made it our mission to inform, to empower, to support, and to educate Africans with Parkinson's disease. One of the ways that we're doing this is through awareness campaigns, forming strategic partnerships with different organizations to help us improve access of those who are not able to afford their medication. I created a video, I think about a month ago, called 7 Reasons. And the video was just to basically highlight the profiles of different Africans suffering from Parkinson's disease. And basically what it was saying to the world, look, Parkinson's exists in Africa. It's not a myth, you know. There are people on the continent with this illness. And we've done quite well. We've raised in the last 3 to 4 weeks over 11,000 Canadian dollars, and all of that money is going directly to fund medication for people who don't have access to it.
And how far-reaching has this advocacy been? I know it's been challenging, but what's been the impact that you can point to as an advocate and as an organization?
So I think one of the highlights, if I can call it that, of my journey on this with Parkinson's disease was last year. I attended the World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto, and I spoke twice there. And I met a couple who have a foundation called the FARA Foundation. And they have connections to Nigeria. They're not Nigerian, but they have connections to Nigeria. And over the next 3 months, we were able to come to an agreement, an arrangement, whereby they agreed to fund 100 Nigerians with their Parkinson's medication for 1 year. And that program is currently ongoing at LUCE under the guidance of Professor Okubadejo. And it's something that gives me great, I don't know the patients, I don't know who they are, but because I live in the UK where I have access to all the healthcare and medication that I need, but I still struggle sometimes with Parkinson's. I cannot imagine what people in remote parts of Africa that don't have access to these medications, I can't imagine what their lives are like. And so that's been a very momentous occasion for me.
You know, there are many people who don't understand a lot. They don't know if there are warning symptoms. They don't know if what do they do if their loved ones are affected with this. How do they approach and respond to this kind of scenarios? Could you talk to us about those?
Yes, definitely. Specifically for Nigeria, I believe there are at least 2 tertiary institutions in every state. And each one, maybe not all, but the majority of them have at least one neurologist. So the first thing that I would say is if you suspect Parkinson's at all, for whatever reason, please go to a neurologist. Go to one of the tertiary institutions in your state. If you don't have a neurologist in your state, send me an email. If you go to parkinsonsafrica.com, you will find a contact from there. Contact me and I will find you the closest neurologist that you can get to.
Well, earlier you talked to us about, how Parkinson's, arises. It's because some neurons die in the brain, and that's supposed to happen much later in life. Is there anything that people who have it can do to manage it? Because just as you have said, medications to manage it is very expensive. So is there any do you think there is any way nutrition can help in managing it to feed the brain so the neurons don't die?
So there are pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical treatments that I'm aware of. There is no particular nutrition type of diet that will slow down Parkinson's. However, on the pharmaceutical side, the main course of treatment is a drug called levodopa, and there are other alternatives called dopamine agonists. For non-pharmaceutical options, I think exercise is the absolute biggest thing that I can recommend for anyone to do. Exercise is one of the few things that have been shown to actually slow down the progression of the illness. And it's not anything crazy, just 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes a day of any type of exercise that gets your heart rate up. I think there's a lot of buzz and research about cycling and brisk walking. But really, for me, I try to do anything that just gets my heart rate up. In terms of diet, there's There are different diets. Again, nothing that research has said that definitively slows down the progression, but studies have shown that Mediterranean diet, which is rich in oils, fish, nuts, and legumes, has some positive effect. And there's some people have also speculated that the ketogenic diet also helps.
Claire, you mentioned the other time that young people are now prone to it. Is there any particular segment, any particular function, any particular class of society that is vulnerable to it that should begin to take precaution?
So the truth is that no one really knows what causes Parkinson's. There are genetic and environmental factors that increase your risk of developing Parkinson's. In fact, it's a great opportunity to talk about a book that I read that has greatly changed my mindset in terms of how I view the things that may contribute towards Parkinson's. And it's called Ending Parkinson's, and it was written by 4 doctors, Bas Bloom, Todd Scherer, Michael Okun, and Ray Dorsey. And what they are arguing is that the environmental factors, such as exposure to toxic chemicals and pesticides, for example, increase your risk of having Parkinson's. So if you live in an environment or in an area where there is exposure to these toxic chemicals, you may be at an increased risk. Genetics-wise, the vast majority of Parkinson's is idiopathic, meaning that nobody really knows what's causing it. But there are, I think, about 15% of people who have Parkinson's have a family history of Parkinson's, but that's the minority.
How do we help? I mean, for those who want to, who are watching and saying, look, what can I do, whichever way, shape, or form?
That's another wonderful question. I think for everybody, I would first ask that you please go to the website, www.parkinsonsafrica.com. And on the website, there's information about the awareness campaign that we're running. There's information about opportunities to fund, to donate towards the medication program. And there's information about how to contact me. For the media, I would like to reiterate, to give us platforms to come on and share our stories. Somebody said something to me the other day. It left a comment on my YouTube and said, Parkinson's is not important with COVID and malaria. And my response to that is, yes, COVID is a massive healthcare crisis that deserves a lot of attention. But that's not stopping cancer patients from getting their medication and treatment. It's not stopping diabetes patients from getting their medication and treatment, and it shouldn't stop Parkinson's patients from getting their medication and treatment. But nobody knows about the struggles and the challenges that we have and we face if we don't come out and if we're not given a platform to speak. I would just quickly also ask corporations to consider including Parkinson's initiatives as part of their corporate social responsibility programs. And lastly, if there are any donors out there, like the Farah Foundation did, we are looking for people to sponsor more medication. All the funds that we're receiving are going directly to funding medication for people with Parkinson's. And I guess my final call would be to the government to help us create robust health policies that will improve access to medication for our citizens. And yeah.
All right, then Omotola Thomas is the founder, Parkinson's Africa. She's also a systems engineer. Thank you for talking to us today, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, then. So there you go. Let's take a look at some comments coming through today. We've got this one from Johnson Abbey. Well, Johnson says, what else should we say? Your first sentence is very complete. We will all watch as this fund is messed up, ends up in private pockets, see some few publicity and some IG visit to states, And then the issues remain: insecurity, same stories, same pains, same, all the same. But I didn't see that coming.
I sincerely hope not.
Oh, boy.
But this one is from Ify Great. Says, simply adopt equal representation of all linguistic tribes in every company of police or army approximately. Groom them to please their own village or homeland. Brother protect brother. If they extort, we call the father's name to him. Don't we have streets and estate night guards with gates?
Ooh, wow, there you go. What a day and a society. Look, there's several other things that are equally important in life.
Absolutely.
You know, beyond politics and the other things that we grapple with on a regular basis. So society needs to actually evolve and see that that's why we always say certain things. But that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again next week. Don't forget, take care of yourselves and each other. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Now I'll repeat that this way. Be your brother's keeper. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.